Good morning and welcome to Denbigh Christian Church. We're so glad you have chosen to join us this morning. We thank all of you that have come in person, ones that are joining us online, as well as ones who will be visiting during the week. If you have not already grabbed your communion element, this would be a great time to do so. We'll give you a minute to do that. Would you stand and join us? Sing to the King who is coming to reign. Glory to Jesus.
Somebody's put all kinds of snacks under there. We might have a break. So, generally when we do communion, as we come to the communion time, Matt has been doing that. And I wanted him to get used to being up here, and he's getting very used to being up here. If you didn't get your communion, now's the time to get it, because we're going to take time for communion. And we're going to experiment with a little bit different procedure. So if you have your communion, and if you're home, if you're streaming, if you have your communion, I'm going to ask you to, once we start, just take it when you want. Yeah, Blaine, you're a big boy now. Just take just take it when you want. One of the things I miss, I'd be glad, Lord willing, I hope the day is coming when everybody comes back. I thought we were about there around Christmas, and still, it's not back where we want it to be. I appreciate you guys. You guys were singing that last song. They were singing. I don't hear you like I used to. I'd like to be able to hear everybody out there. One of the things I miss in communion is a little bit different, because when I grew up, like many of you, I grew up in a church where they passed the communion, and you took the bread and you took the drink and you fumbled them around and you tried to take them. And I thought that was normal, and I guess I was used to that. I liked that. But then when I came here a lot of years ago, the procedure here was you pass the bread, you hold it, everybody takes it, then you pass the drink. Well, when I first came here, I thought, man, that's a waste of time. Well, then over time, I got used to it. I got used to praying. I got used to thinking. I got used to meditating during that time. And then all of a sudden, the pandemic comes along, we can't do that anymore. And if you're old, this is like a Rubik's Cube anyway. and so I feel rushed. I feel like I can't do what I want to do. So today I figured, since I was going to do it, I want to do this. Most of us do not like quiet. I wanted to use no music, but we will, because people may be whispering or talking or whatever, which you shouldn't be doing in communion. I'm going to give you an extended time. You might think it's really extended, probably 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I told Cindy, I said, have Mason ready to play 5 minutes. She said, that is a very long time. 5 minutes alone with your own thoughts, that is a long time now, isn't it? We turn on the TV, we turn on the radio, we turn off our brains. I'm going to put a passage up that we talked about last week. You can go ahead and put it up there, Ted. We talked about this in depth when we talked about the tension between truth and grace. This passage says, for from his fullness we have all received grace upon grace. Remember how we talked about that? When you need grace, it's there. A little bit later, there's another wave of grace, because you need it for various situations, for forgiveness or help. And then when that wave is over, what do you need in the next 30 minutes? Another wave of grace. So I want you to look at that, and I want you to pray about that, your relationship with Jesus Christ. He said, remember me. To remember how many times this week you needed grace upon grace. You may need to get something right with him, or you may just need to thank him for who he is. Remember him. So he's going to play. We're going to be quiet. You're going to have time. When you want to take the emblems, you take them. Thank you, Mason. That was good. You should have been sitting up here. And he just did something like, I wish I had that power. I just told him myself, he said, why don't you just let me know when you want me to stop? I've never had this power. I just went like this. He stopped. It doesn't happen in my house in any shape or form for four-legged or two-legged. So I'm wanting to get started. I am wanting to remind you, many of you bought books last week. You said, well, I wasn't here last week. It seemed like we had more last week, but maybe you weren't here. We ordered these books. The book titled by the name He Chose the Nails. It is a book you need to read this season of the year. We got them at a great price, $6. All you have to do is walk in the office and give $5 or $6, or if you don't have any money, nothing, and get one of those books and read it this season. It'll be, if you're not happy you read that book this season, I will give you 4 times what you paid for. You come to me and said, that didn't do nothing for me. I'll give you $25. I promise I will. All yours. Do what you want to. If you can live with that $25, good on you. Now, last week, we used a book, a small book, called The Grace-Truth Paradox. It is extremely strong. You can read it quick. On Wednesday night, I had a few left over to give out. We made another order. They'll be coming in. Just let me know if you want one. They should be coming in pretty soon. If I think this is like, you know how somebody will give their recommendation in the front of the book, right in the foreword? So there were a couple guys eating meatloaf Wednesday night, looking at the book. I gave a book to Kenny. He's sitting across from Blaine. So this is what they would write in the foreword. Kenny says, pretty small. Oh, 92 pages, small. I guess I could read that. Blaine looks at him and says, yeah, that's the foreword. I guess even if you don't want to read, you can read that book. And I believe that book, because I'm truth-oriented, and I don't want to let go of truth, but I need to grab a hold to grace, that book centers me. Like sometimes you listen to a song and it takes you where you need to go. That book centers me. I could reread that book all the time. I do need to reread that book all the time. So we have more coming in. There's one, because, there's always somebody who thinks they're extra religious. Ted brought one back this week. Said, can I get my $10 back? Didn't you, Ted? Did you bring it back? Want your $10? He did, see? They already had it, sorry. But anyway, so there's one in the office if you want to get that one, and then others will come. If you're streaming today, we try not to do this, but if you're streaming 2/3 of the way through the sermon, you're going to get a little picture that says, what does the picture say, Garrison? We're going to show video. Yeah, it's illegal for us to show video streaming, so we're not showing many videos, but I want to show this video since you're here. If you're streaming and you want to make out context, hopefully after the sermon, just Google War Room Prayer Scene. War Room Prayer Scene. You can look at it. Hopefully it'll make sense. There's no way we can get around this. And so we don't do it as much, but we're kind of handcuffed. So War Room Prayer Scene. Today I have two goals specifically. One is to inspire you. I want to inspire you. You say, well, you're awful proud of yourself. No, it's not me. I want to give you something that will inspire you. The other thing I want to do is to encourage you. I'm going to inspire you with 3 different prayers. 3 prayers. And I want to encourage you to the place where you understand how important your kingdom focus really is to those around you. I want to encourage you. Your kingdom focus is important. But before I get into the inspiring and the encouraging, I want to tell you why I want to inspire and encourage you. And it's not positive. But we're going to get there. I really do. I want to inspire you. I want to encourage you. But I got to tell you the why of it. And it's not encouraging. So I'm going to try to get through it quick. The driver of these thoughts is, it's been some time now. I don't know how many years. You know how years pass by and you don't know how many passed by and you think it was a short time, but you're not sure. I think it's a relatively short time, and when I mean that, I mean over the past 5 or 10 years, more than I'd like to admit. The local church, including the Denbigh Christian Church, has been growing and seemingly grown into something that's not good. Not everybody, not all the time, but in general, the local church has grown into what I would just label, and you'll know what I mean, a consumer mentality. It's hard on the staff, it's hard on the preacher, it's hard on the elders because you want to be served. We live in a time when church shopping is what people freely tell you when they walk through the door, and like that's an okay term. We're church shopping. Then you find out why. Well, they, meaning their church family, they did something, they said something. They didn't do something, they didn't say something. We didn't get what we want, so now we're going to shop and we're going to find what we want, what serves us. And that is almost, and except we're church shopping, almost like we're proud of it. I can't imagine that phrase being used 30 or 40 years ago. That would have been embarrassing to say. You might have thought it, but it would have been embarrassing. We've grown to this point where the church leaders have been kind of, including me, lulled and hoodwinked. People say you want to please people. Well, I do. We've been kind of lulled and hoodwinked into satisfying individual people, Christians in the congregation, complying with their perceived needs when they come at us with them and their selfish desires, as if that is really helping to reach people, and as if that is really fulfilling kingdom purposes. In other words, me trying to make you happy, I somehow convince myself that is really worthwhile for kingdom purposes. That's me being hoodwinked into something that's not true. What happens is this just takes a lot of time and it draws a lot of precious energy away. It's not unusual, and I'll get to the good part. You just have to endure this. It's not unusual because it's the truth. It's not unusual that Christian folks now go through their work week and they continue what probably is their norm when they come to worship on Sunday morning, and their attitude pretty much is they want what they want. Or if it comes to style of music, or if it comes to what they feel like they need, or if it comes to what you preach needs to fit what they believe. Therefore, often preaching the truth gets me in trouble. I can preach right out of the Bible. Why do you keep preaching that scripture? There's a selfishness in us that don't want to hear that thing. Often now, if we pivot very quickly to try to minister, and I can say in our church, I'm very proud, we've pivoted to try to minister to the to the neighborhood kids, and it causes trouble. Things get stolen, fights start on Wednesday nights. It's pretty raw at times. The report I get from many ministers is our church kind of went that way, but it was rebelled from people. We don't do that anymore. Isn't that selfish? So you pivot quickly to try to do something that would be kingdom purposed. All this leads to what we've done, and I do believe this, we in some ways have kind of created a comfortable group. We meet everybody's need to the place they want it met. The ones who can't stand that, they leave and go to another church. And I'm not just talking about us, I'm talking about the local church in general. But we kind of get to the place where we're comfortable, we can live with this. We just got to keep reminding them what we want. And what brings today's really inspiration, I hope, is I want you to know there's a costly toll to that. Needless to say, it's frustrating, but true kingdom purposes sometimes suffer. Add to that, we've had 2 years or more of pandemic. And none of us wanted that. We didn't sign up for that. We've just felt ourselves trying to hang on as individuals and hang on as a church. Really, that's what, we say, we have had a good number of new people come in, but we've been trying to hang on. As leaders, we've been trying to hang on, not tick you off on the days we asked you to wear masks, not tick you off on the days we said you could take. We've just been hanging on. Whatever little nubble I had that would come out sometimes, it hardly does anymore. It is rough trying to do the right thing in a consumer-oriented culture in the church in the midst of a dynamic, in the midst of a pandemic. It has not been easy. And so we need to take a rest at this place, and we need to think, because we need the time of inspiration and encouragement to move forward in a different way. We need time to back away from self-focus. I can tell you ministry would be a pleasure if there was not so much self-focus in other people, even so much self-focus in me. There are serious needs and concerns that all of this brings. In fact, there's a toll that we pay for the erosion of this consumer mentality in the church, this self-focus. The needs are, you may not have noticed, but there are a lot of people in our congregation who need you. You say, well, I haven't noticed. I don't even know them all. Isn't that strange? Isn't that strange? There are people here that need love, they need attention, they need help, and they need it from you. They're drowning in what we see on TV, this cultural, political correctness that smothers us. We don't even know what we can say, when we can say, on what day of the week. We have that going on as Christians. Then there's financial issues, and then there's just personal issues. There's people who need you. But if you're living in selfishness, they will not get you. So those needs, quite frankly, go unmet. And sometimes those people turn to terrible alternatives. That's kind of the needs in the self-focused, consumer-oriented church today. The toll is, and we're getting to the good part, so just 2 more minutes. The toll is, there are those who hung around in ministry, whether they're preachers, youth ministers, or whatever, volunteers. They hung around for 2 years during the pandemic because they didn't want to run off. Well, now they're leaving. It was either time or that did them in, and they're going. And so there is a toll to pay. There's an ugly little secret that's taking place over the last 10 or 15 years. I don't mention it because some of you get really ticked off. I'd like to use stronger words, but I won't. You get ticked off about it. The ugly little secret in the church now is, let somebody else's children become ministers or missionaries or education directors or staff in a church. Let somebody else's kid do that because my kid's too smart. Let somebody else's kid do that because I don't want to see them go through what I know some of our folks go through. Let somebody else do it because I want my kid to make more money. It's an ugly little secret in the church, but over the last 10 or 20 years, parents have not been saying, oh, yay, let's go team, and encourage their children to go into the ministry in any shape or form. And so now the toll is we find ourselves, there's not enough preachers to go around. I have a friend who's stepping away from a ministry as he was intramat. He had the same guy that's helped us in my transition come to their church. Their church is not healthy. They don't have any young people. And he said, I really would hope you get a young guy to be able to come in here to help this group of people. You know, they're good people, yada, yada, yada. And Neil basically looked at him and he said, I got a list of 14 churches. There's a toll to pay for consumer-oriented Christianity. You think, Cliff, you're just, because Tony could be over there thinking, Cliff, you just, you cry wolf, you cry wolf, and I'm not crying wolf here. Do you want to put that picture up, Ted? So this is a picture I got this week, You see that? That was one of our bigger Bible colleges. It's the one I went to. It is no longer going to be there. Beautiful piece of land. Cincinnati's it's being torn down. RJ, you can take it away. It's kind of sickening. RJ this week sent me an article about another one of our Christian colleges that I thought was stable, and now they are not going under, but they're pulling way back and only going to do a limited amount of stuff. And we're almost to the encouragement, but I want you to understand this, because the toll is the church will be led by people with no training or a lack of training, and they will not be ready for the rigors. And they will not have the Bible foundational teaching and study and time put in to lead in the way you'd hope they could, in the way they really deserve to. There are tolls. Opportunities lost when we focus on self. Now, here's the inspiration encouragement. I know you want me to get here. Here it is. And I think it's good. And I believe it's true. With your focus, and when I say you, I mean an individual, so I'm looking at Dave. Okay, so Dave, with your focus, I'm not saying everybody, with your focus, with your love, with your determination not to be self-focused, with God's power, you can make a significant difference. So I can look at any one person. Tim, you can make a significant difference. And if Tim does, and if Al does, and if Kenny does, all of a sudden we can. Changing, we can't change every place, but we could make sure this place is not consumer-oriented, self-service, church shopping, self-focused Christians that are comfortable together. So the big idea today is to encourage you to choose that it's time for you. I don't need you to think about me. I don't need you to think about anybody else. I don't want you to go to somebody else and say, this is what you need, but it's time for you. Hopefully, I want to encourage you that you say, I'm going to have a strong individual kingdom focus. That's not the norm, but it could be your norm. That you walk out of here today and say, I'm going to think about this. Maybe I have become consumer-oriented, and I want to take that encouragement and become strong in my kingdom focus. Because I do believe in Jesus Christ. I do believe in His church. And I want to focus on that with my life. It's kind of a time for a wringing out, not a soaking up. You use those illustrations. You bring a big old nasty sponge up here. You fill it full of water. You let it sit for a week or so. It starts to turn black, and you say, here's an illustration of what happens if you soak up, you soak up, you soak up. It gets moldy. It's no good. Sometimes you need to do what? You need to wring it out. It's time for a wringing out. So for the inspiration, I have 3 prayers I want to share with you. One of the prayers, the first prayer, is a prayer that Jesus prayed. You may have read it. Some of you haven't. Most of you have. It's a prayer that He prayed right before He was arrested. It is a long prayer. In fact, it's the longest prayer we find from Him in the Bible, and we're going to read it together. In John 17, we read, after Jesus said this, He looked forward to heaven and prayed, Father, the time has come. Glorify your Son, that your Son may glorify you. For you granted Him authority over all people, that He might give eternal life to all those who have given Him. Now, this is eternal life, that they may know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent. I have brought you glory on earth, completing the work you've given me to do. And now, Father, glorify me in your presence with the glory I have with you before the world began. In other words, I'm ready to come back and have that glory in you. I have revealed you to those who you gave me out of this world. They were yours. You gave them to me, and they have obeyed your word. Now they know that everything you have given me comes from you. For I gave them words you gave me, and they accepted them. They knew with certainty that I came from you, and they believed that you sent me. I pray for them. So now he's praying for those who are around him. I pray for them. I'm not only praying for the world, but for those you have given me. I'm not praying for the world, but for those you have given me, for they are yours. All I have is yours, and all you have is mine. And glory has come to me through them. I will remain in the world no longer, but they are still in the world. And I am coming to you, Holy Father. Protect them by the power of your name, the name you gave me, so that they may be one as we are one. While I was with them, I protected them and kept them safe by the name you gave me. None has been lost except the one doomed to destruction, so that Scripture will be fulfilled. I am coming to you now, but I say these things while I am still in this world, so they may have the full measure of my joy within them. I have given them your word, and the world has hated them. For they are not of the world any more than I am of the world. My prayer is not that you take them out of the world, but that you protect them from the evil one. They are not of the world, even as I am not of the world. Sanctify them by your truth. Your word is truth. As you sent me into the world, I have sent them into the world. For them I sanctify myself, that they too may be truly sanctified. My prayer is not for them alone. So he's prayed for himself. Now he's praying for those around him who are Christians. And now he goes on in his kingdom focus. My prayer is not for them alone. I pray also for those who will believe in and through their message, that all of them may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. May they also be in us, so the world may believe that you have sent me. I have given them the glory that you gave me, that they may be one as we are one, I and them and you and me. May they be brought to complete unity, and let the world know that you sent me and I have loved them even as you have loved me. Father, I want those you have given me to be with me where I am and to see my glory, the glory you have given me because you loved me before the creation of the world. Righteous Father, though the world does not know you, I know you, and they know that you have sent me. I have made you known to them and will continue to make you known in order that the love you have for me may be in them and that I myself may be in them. What a prayer. It's hard for me to read it so that you can understand it, but it's one you need to go home and read. It is inspirational in your kingdom focus. You read this prayer, you see he prays for himself. He's in the kingdom. He prays for Christians around him. They're in the kingdom. He prays for those who will become Christian because they are future kingdom. He prays for everybody that's going to be in the kingdom, though he says not everybody will be there. He's praying for those who are not yet part of the kingdom. That is kingdom focus. It's inspirational. It's a way that you can look at this, model your living, and focus on this. I'm going to read 2 verses, and then we'll move on very quickly. If you'll put up verse 20 and 21, this is amazing. This inspires kingdom focus. My prayer is not for them alone. I pray for those who will believe in me through their message. He's praying for those who's going to believe in him through our message, that all of them may be one, Father, just as you are in me and I am in you. May they also be in us, so the world may believe that you have sent me. In other words, he's praying for people yet to become Christians. They'll see that through us, and as we do that in unity, others will see kingdom focus. This is a prayer you need to read. This is a prayer we need to pay attention to, that we'll all be united so the world may believe God has sent his Son. This is an example of kingdom focus. I hope it inspires you. I hope you open your Bible and look at it. You say, okay, yeah, that's Jesus. We know he's amazing. Well, let's look at another prayer. I want to inspire you with another prayer. I can't tell you that it was God because I've never heard God speak to me. I haven't. But I can tell you, before I got out of bed one day this week, this prayer stomped into my mind. And I probably only heard it a time or two. I didn't even know the prayer, but it stomped into my mind before I could get my feet on the ground. My hand made itself grab the phone, pull up the prayer, and read it. That tells you how inspirational it had been to me. It's from the movie The War Room. If you've never seen the movie, we have it. You can use it. It is inspirational in itself. It's about an older woman who makes her life kingdom focused. And she involves herself as people who come into her path. And she involves herself in such a way that it's life-changing. The example of the movie was a family, and now she had worked with that family, and amazing things had happened. They don't always, but in that family they did. And what I want you to see is the reason it's called War Room is she would always pray in a closet that she set up. So she goes back to her war room with kingdom focus. I want you to listen to this prayer. You'll see some beautiful illustrations of people that are being raised up. I guess I sent her the wrong thing. I'm sitting there and I get goosebumps again, and I listen to that prayer, and I need to go off the notes for just a second. I listened on my phone to a missionary, somehow, you know John Murphy, and I see this video of this missionary young man, good-looking young man, talking about how Jesus Christ is working, and he's in a bunker, and talking about the people they're praying with. The Lord is building up and raising up a generation in bunkers right now that will serve him in a mighty way. You need to know that. And he can do that here. I hope it's not the same conditions. Let this inspire you on being a guide, a help to. I want to equip other people to do the same is what I can do. Well, very quickly, I got one more inspirational prayer. I heard it this last week, and I want you to pay attention to this because I want you to see Jesus, and I want you to see this. And I know it's a movie, but you can't write that prayer unless you're a Christian. A non-Christian could not write that prayer. And so we're going through Wednesday night this study, and it's a Kyle Idleman study, which is irrelevant. It's called One at a Time, and it happens to coincide with being kingdom focused. In other words, we can't stay where we are if we want the kingdom to grow. We have to get away from where we are, get out to where people are, and one at a time be involved in their lives. And so the idea of that night was proximity. You got to get close to where the people are that are in need. At the end of that lesson, he talked about a young girl named Brittany. Brittany was 17 years old. Brittany died. And they asked Kyle Idleman to do the funeral. And when he came to learn about Brittany, he had found out she just got her first checking account. And her first check was to Compassion International to support a child. And her parents brought him a spiral notebook with a journal in it. And he read part of a prayer that she had written that I'm going to read to you. Kingdom focus. This prayer was written the night before she died. God, I can't fathom how much you feel when one of your children suffer, but I've had a glimpse of your heartache. Please fill me with your wisdom that I won't just watch others suffer, but that I will be able to say what they need to hear. As a new week approaches, my dangerous prayer is that you'll place brokenhearted people in my path and fill me with you so that I can let your love heal their pain. A 17-year-old kingdom-focused girl. Not about her, not about 17-year-old desires and stuff. Inspiration, glowing example of not consumer Christianity, but kingdom focus. Those three prayers, you have it within your ability tonight to sit down and read John, look up War Room, and you can look this up too. I can tell you where to do it. Here's the deal. I just ask that you think about, I just ask that you pray about the church in the United States, the church body at Denbigh, desperately in need in this consumer Christianity to be inspired to replicate the kingdom purposes of these prayers. I'm going to ask you to consider this. Ted, you want to put that up, and this is where we're in. I want to ask you to consider a bold prayer. This might not be your prayer, but this is the end of Brittany's prayer. To dare yourself to pray. Lord, will you put people in my path? Would you fill me with you so that I can let your love heal their pain? Will you be standing?
Give me eyes to see.
Wouldn't it be great if the culture of the church could be defined by this? I didn't plan on saying this. When Bill and I were young, the church that we went to was defined by sending out preachers. And my little group, Bill and me and a guy named Eddie Tyson and Billy Swain and Dan Gillum and Phil Miller and guys who were working in the shipyard, quit the shipyard, went to Bible college, spent their life in ministry. Wouldn't it be great if the Denbigh Christian Church on the corner of Memorial Road would become known for sending out ministers? Right now, Matt's with 2 young men at Johnson Bible College that have gone to an event. And the whole event is around those young people who really think they might want their life to focus full-time ministry somehow. Might not be the preacher in a church, but full-time kingdom focus. And you've done okay. Or maybe Bill's done okay. There's a culture of preachers in his family with Matt and with Jeremy. Morgan's out there. We kind of owned Mike. He's out there. Eric Stanglin's out there. So you're doing good. Let's just do a little better. And all God's people said, amen. Books are in the office.